Okay, good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Matt Constantine. I'm the Director of Kern County Public Health. I'm joined by three very important people, Russell Judd, the CEO of Kern Medical, and Dr. Royce Johnson, who is the Chief of the Division of Infectious Disease at Kern Medical and the Medical Director for the Valley Fever Institute at Kern Medical, and Kimberly Hernandez, who is our Senior Epidemiologist and also the one that oversees our disease control section. I'm going to ask that each three of them speak. Kim is going to talk a little bit more about the data and some of the charts and graphs you see in front of you. Dr. Johnson will talk a little bit about the clinical aspects of Valley Fever, and Russell will speak a little bit about the Institute and how that's improving our community. So unfortunately, we are here today to announce that the number of new cases of Valley Fever in Kern County has again increased. In calendar year 2018, there were 2,937 Kern County residents diagnosed with Valley Fever. Although this is only a 7% increase from the previous calendar year, this represents the fourth year in a row of increasing cases in Kern County. And more importantly, unfortunately, this is the highest number of new cases we have had in Kern County in 27 years, since 1992. So, due to this public health concern, we have relaunched our Valley Fever Awareness Campaign this month. We have locally produced some PSAs that are in every local movie theater in Bakersfield and on electronic billboards throughout the community. And it's a good reminder that we have a Valley Fever website. It's our only disease that has its own website, where all of this data that Kim will speak about today it actually went live at 10 this morning. And finally, unlike in previous years, I'd like to also highlight three individuals in the audience today that receive little public recognition, but are public health heroes. These three individuals oversee our lab, our micro lab upstairs in this building, and are the ones themselves that are performing these tests. More than 100 patients every day where they're running tests. So I'd like if Brittany Lopez could please stand up. Please stand up, Brittany. And then Erica Garcia. These are our two microbiologists. And Dr. Janda, who oversees our lab, is our laboratory director. So they're here today also. Collectively, in the last year, they've tested more than 29,000 tests for Valley Fever. So we're grateful of their participation. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Kim to talk a little bit about some of the numbers.
Thank you very much. As Dr. Constantine mentioned, last year there were 2,937 Kern County residents diagnosed with Valley Fever. This is only a 7% increase from 2017, but also, as he mentioned, this is the fourth consecutive year of increasing cases. The number of cases in 2018 is 2.8 times as high as it was in 2014. As mentioned, 2018 had the highest number of cases reported in a single year since 1992. We continue to see Valley Fever diagnosed more often in males than in females. In 2018, the incident rate among men was 27% higher than among women. When we look at different age groups, we continue to see the largest number of cases in people 25 to 44 years of age. In 2018, this group accounted for 36% of our cases. They are represented in yellow on the chart on your far left. However, when you factor in population size, people aged 45 to 64 years actually have the highest incident rate, and they have since 2012. We know that these working populations may have more exposures than others, but these are the age groups where people should be most cautious about their risk. Excluding instances where the race and ethnicity information was not reported, in 2018, 47% of our cases identified as Hispanic, 29% identified as non-Hispanic white, and 7% were non-Hispanic black. The other 17% comprised of residents who are identified as Asian Pacific Islander, Native American or Alaskan Native, as 2 or more races, or as other. While these groups are equally important, the small populations in Kern County and the wide variability of case counts year to year make it difficult to identify trends in those groups. If you look closely at our middle chart over here at the yellow line, you can see that non-Hispanic blacks consistently have the highest incident rate. This is accounting for our population size. In 2018, the incidence rate among blacks was 40% higher than among Hispanics and 50% higher than among whites. As you can see on our chart here nearest to me on your right, valley fever incidence goes up and down. Accounting for our increasing population over time, the incidence rate in 2018 was less than 1% different than our last peak in 2011. At this point in the year, it is difficult to predict what 2019 will bring. When cases go up, we're often asked, why? Why are we seeing this increase? It's likely a combination of many factors. Since valley fever is a fungus that grows in the soil, environmental factors like weather must play a role. Activities that disturb the soil and then allow the valley fever spores to get into the air and inhaled also vary year to year. We also hope that increased public awareness about valley fever these past few years have encouraged people to seek medical care when they have symptoms. We also hope that we can continue to increase, we also hope that we can continue to increase, enhance the ability of our medical community to detect and treat valley fever. All of those things and more affect the number of people who are being diagnosed every year. While the final statewide numbers for 2018 haven't been published yet, Kern County residents regularly account for 30 to 50% of all the cases in California. Our incidence rate is higher than any other county by far. This means that our community bears the largest burden of valley fever in the state of California. But we also have some tremendous resources here in our county. Our local healthcare providers, our public health laboratory, and a lot of dedicated community partners. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for coming. The data that's been presented comes as no surprise to those of us that take care of people with valley fever or coccidioidomycosis. We've certainly seen in the last many years a large increase in the number of cases, and it's put a stress and a strain on our system for caring for those individuals. The numbers that we're seeing in these recent years are additive, meaning if you go back and look at the spike that we had in 91, 92, 93, the numbers came back down, although never to a baseline that looked like before those years. But since 2011, we've had an enormous number of cases every year. It does go up and down a bit, but the actual increase in both numbers of cases and in the incidence, meaning the number per 100,000, has gone up steadily. And those patients don't tend to go away. Taking care of even the most minor coccidioidomycosis case takes 2 to 3 years, and the more difficult cases are the rest of their life. So we're still taking care of those patients that showed up in 1986, a few, even 1976, one. And the people that came in 2011, many of them are still under care. So the number of people needing care from this disease isn't an annual event. It's an ongoing process that adds up over time. So it's fortunate that we have taken on a new partner, Rasha Karan, in the Division of Infectious Disease and at the Valley Fever Institute to try and help manage this load. And she's standing in the back of the room as we speak. So this is not just statistics. These people, this disease affects their life, their ability to go to work, their ability to support their families. It often eventuates in long-term disability. So it has an enormous cost to them personally, to their family, to their employer, and to the community at large. So valley fever is an ongoing saga. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. and we need new and better understandings of the disease. And we're working on that at the Valley Fever Institute. And we need more research into the basic mechanisms of why people become ill, why some people become ill and others don't. Because the numbers that Kim presented, that represents people that actually had a diagnosis. The number of people that were infected is 10 times larger. Many of those people had no illness whatsoever, but only 1 out of 4 people with symptoms is actually diagnosed. So the number of infections is actually considerably higher than the numbers we see, which are reported cases. So I hope we have better drugs in the future. I hope we have a vaccine in the future. And I hope we raise public awareness about the fact that this is a health problem that affects many people in our community. Thank you very much.
As Matt mentioned, my name is Russell Judd. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Kern Medical, and we are very proud supporters and partners with the Public Health Department and the other community providers as we operate and direct the Valley Fever Institute. The Valley Fever Institute was formed approximately 18 months ago. It is an academic, research-based institute to focus on 3 elements of valley fever. First, of course, is the prevention of valley fever. That occurs by education of the public. It occurs by research. And then once we can prevent it, then we don't have to treat it. But we know until that day occurs that we focus on the treatment of valley fever. We have active patients that we see on a very regular basis receiving treatment for valley fever. The Valley Fever Institute revolves around 3 physicians, Dr. Royce Johnson, who you just heard from, Dr. Haidari, and Dr. Karan. They are infectious disease physicians with additional training and the focus of their practice on the treatment of valley fever. It's safe to say, we don't say it just because they're part of this, but when the world has a question about valley fever, they call the Valley Fever Institute. Our partners that we share at the University of Arizona and the 3 physicians here at the Valley Fever Institute are clearly world-renowned for their treatment of this disease. Our focus is threefold. One, as I mentioned, is we want to prevent valley fever. And that is, if we can, research is ongoing about finding a vaccine. It would be fantastic if that could be developed. Our partners at University of Arizona have got some clinical trials that are moving forward. With that, that would be exciting if a vaccine could be created. The second is research focused on a drug that would treat valley fever once it's been received by the patient. What can we do to enhance the amount of drugs? There are some antifungal drugs that are out there now. They do an attempt at treating valley fever, but do not cure valley fever. So research is ongoing in the genetic side and the focus of how can we find a drug that will actually treat valley fever. The other element is we do treat patients on a daily basis. Valley fever is a devastating disease. As I have interacted with the patients, as I've visited with patients, as they receive treatment, it is debilitating if you have disseminated cocci. It changes your life. I think it's unfortunate that we don't spend as much effort on sharing the devastation of this disease. That's one role of the Valley Fever Institute, not to point out the bad, but to create awareness so that additional funding can be received. And finally, it's about education. We have a responsibility to also educate the physicians in the community so that they can very quickly identify valley fever. As with any disease, the quicker you begin treating it, the better the outcome is going to be. We just recently hosted a very successful Valley Fever Forum where we had over 100 healthcare practitioners in the community having some lectures, receiving education on the treatment of valley fever. We're very excited to continue to grow the Valley Fever Institute. Funding is being secured. We're working very closely with Assemblyman Salas here in the state of California to have additional funding, as well as Kevin McCarthy and TJ Cox at the federal level. I've said a long time ago that if valley fever was found in a big city or on the East Coast and the appropriate number of research dollars were put into it, we'd have had a solution for this disease a very long time ago. But as we make national awareness, as we make local awareness of the disease, and the dollars come in so that we can apply the appropriate level of research and give it the attention that it needs so that we can do something about this devastating disease. We are disappointed to see these numbers, only because we know those are real people. Every single one of these little marks on this graph is a person who had valley fever, and it impacted their life. We probably all know somebody whose life is impacted by valley fever. So at the Valley Fever Institute, we're committed to improve the research, we're committed to improving the treatment, and we're committed to improving the public awareness of valley fever. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our formal portion of the press conference. All of us will be available for one-on-one questions if you have them, so thank you.